I want to ask you guys what you think happened to music. And this comes up because right before we were going live today, I actually called an audible and I switched topics because a woman put out this tweet in which she talks about this viral clip. It goes viral every so often, far more than just one or two times, of the Goo Goo Dolls performing Iris live in 2004. And it's pouring rain. And she says, is there a reason we don't make music that sounds like this anymore? Or did it morph into something else? So let's watch the clip first. I don't know if we're going to get copyrighted. It's live. We probably will.
It's a really good live performance.
But we'll play. And I know it's good because Kellen was humming it after he was whistling it afterwards. So let's listen to this clip here and then we'll talk about it.
I'd give up forever to touch you, 'cause I know that you feel me somehow. You're the closest to heaven that I'll ever be, and I don't want to go home right now. 'Cause all I can taste is this moment, and all I can breathe is your light. And I don't want to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand when everything's made to be broken. I just want you to know
Okay. I wish we'd have Tim here for this discussion. I feel like he'd actually want to talk about this. So she asks why nobody makes music like this anymore. I did like quote tweet it myself. I said vulnerability and sincerity are no longer seen as virtues because society lives online. Snark and sarcasm dominate the cultural tone. The only time we embrace vulnerability is when we talk about nostalgia, which is oddly enough, it's a bit paradoxical because we are talking a little bit about nostalgia here.
I think there's three parts here. First is the decentralization of music. There's people have their favorite. There's bands that have a cult following that they talk
we've
about
never
heard of.
There's like no, so that's the thing. Bands, like the joke is that bands have disappeared.
It's not true, though.
It's not true. There is plenty of music like this. The difference is that at this time, this was being championed by the labels and on the Hot 100. So that's the more important.
That was my second point. Was it's she's kind of describing what she's witnessing and noticing is the fact that these labels or these streaming services, so Apple Music, Spotify, they're choosing certain genres now to promote, which is your pop star, and rap. Honestly, I'd say those two categories probably make up a majority of like the Hot 100, rap and pop.
Yes.
The alternative rock, the indie rock, hard rock, all of the rock genres they're not interested in promoting those, and that has a direct result on the casual listeners, which the music you casually listen to when you're shopping for groceries, it's playing over the speakers. When you're in your car and you're not streaming music, it's just the radio, that influences your music taste, right? Everyone has that song that they thought was so annoying, they couldn't stand it, and you listen to it enough, and then you find yourself like humming it or singing it at work. You're like, damn it, I hate that song. Why am I singing it?
Yeah.
And so that definitely happens to like casual viewers. The third thing is genres change. No one's listening to big band music from the 20s and 30s, right? The singer songwriter Sinatra style, that's gone. The Beatles, the upbeat boy band rock band, that's gone. Like,
I believe that this was in
change.
general. I tend to believe that this was culturally engineered in a way, if not intentionally, that the internet played a huge part in this and the way that we have become a more cynical and far less sincere form of ourselves because of the internet. So the response that I laughed at was basically saying like everyone embraces snark and cynicism as a way of avoiding being seen as cringe.
I agree.
So what it is that a lot of times there's a lot of introspection that somebody has to go through and a willingness to put yourself out there, that with music like this at this time, like they were talking about themes like love and heartbreak and stuff like that now doesn't dominate the cultural narrative in that genre. What it does is people talk about that in an angry sense. in YouTube Shorts and on Instagram and stuff like that. And the difference was, like, even with music like this, there was a sense, and to be fair, this song was considered almost overly sincere at the time. Like, Gen Xers did make fun of it. I saw that. I asked my brother. But I think what it was is, remember when you talked about guilty pleasures, and you had guilty pleasures that you listened to? I kind of abhor that idea. I think if you like something, you like it, and you don't need to apologize to anyone for liking it. But there's
Like
almost
Coldplay.
like, there is no catharsis anymore because everybody is too worried about being seen as cringe, and you have to be too deep into the snark, too cynical, and we have too little hope. The song was in 2004 that he performed this, but these songs that came out in 96, 97, 98, this was the turn of this, like, this was the millennium.
So,
okay, there was hope for the future at that time. There is no lingering hope for the future anymore.
I think it's the Instagram effect, right? That also kind of plays into what music people are willing to promote and say that they like, right? You don't, I mean, now with the TikTok girls, you see them posting videos of them crying. But for probably a decade plus, what was Instagram? It was the perfect little slice of your life. 98% of your life could be garbage, but that 2%, that's okay or awesome, you're posting that on Instagram, and that's what everyone sees of each other.
I mean, it's worse the people that consistently post their worst moments.
I know. So we might see a reversal with the way, if this TikTok trend holds up, with, you know, all these videos of people crying their eyes out and then posting the video on. First, they got to set up their tripod, but you know, once they hit that send button. So if that trend continues, maybe we will see a resurgence in the super emotional music that isn't afraid to. Yeah.
There's a 20 here from Shane H. Wilder, says the reason music has been so passionless has a lot to do with people living alone and having no real world connection. Generic modern pop and hip hop are easily marketable. Also, I will listen to big band music, so STFU, Kellen.
It's not like I said. Listen, most people aren't listening to it anymore, right?
Yes.
That's generally considered wedding music. The pop music in its heyday, it was pop music, but now it's designated as just like wedding music or formal event music.
I loved rap music. I grew up listening to gangster rap. Okay, now these types of bands, whether we're talking about Matchbox 20, Third Eye Blind, what were the other ones, like Counting Crows, the Gin Blossoms, they were telling the stories about, like, middle class white guys, like the social troubles and the emotional troubles of middle class white men, which resonated with America at the time.
I would also say, though, like, if you look at the music that's popular now, the kind of like the indie pop star and then rap music, what was going on when the internet first started? Those were not the music that was popular. So these when
are we talking about when the internet started?
Like social media.
If we're talking about MySpace, then it was email.
I'd say about 2005 to 2015, around there, when internet really started becoming widely adopted, and SoundCloud. Remember when SoundCloud was big? Like, I think those genres, the independent pop star and the rapper, flourished online.
I mean, that was like Post Malone in the SoundCloud days, like 2018.
And I think he's on the end of that. Yeah. So you have all those artists, and that was the music everywhere on the internet that people. So if you weren't listening to the radio or the top 40, you were going on the internet, and that's what you found is a bunch of rappers on SoundCloud. You saw, what was that website that you could, like, subscribe to people and they get access to their art and music? I forget. There was some. Anyway. Okay. That was the music of the internet, and now that these big companies, like, you have Apple Music, Spotify, you have iHeartRadio, when they moved into the internet, they saw what was popular and then just kind of put that on a pedestal, you know? And that's why Kendrick Lamar was performing at the Super Bowl halftime this year, and then 20 years ago it was Creed.
I think the labels have a lot to do with this.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the labels are kind of at fault for this, and it bums me out because I feel like if there was a more modern embracing of this type of music and it was being given back to you by the dominant powers that be in the industry, that people might let down their guard a bit. And I kind of like the adage where they're like, one must just embrace the cringe, just be one with the cringe, accept that you will all be cringe at one time or another, and you feel free.
I agree with the sentiment that you said about, like, people are afraid to be viewed as cringe. But that isn't stopping music. Like Billie Eilish, that's kind of her thing. Is she gets way too dark and emotional.
Dark and emotional is just edgy, which is still trying to avoid cringe.
Yeah, okay, but
like there is a distinct pattern of, even if you embrace the emotions, you don't embrace it in a manner that's sincere or vulnerable. I don't consider that to be vulnerable.
I got you.
I consider it to be wannabe, edgy, and dark.
But you also have to acknowledge too that with the rise of this like trad influencer and stuff, men are not allowed to make this kind of music. In the tradcon kind of sphere, men are not allowed to get on stage with the guitar and get super emotional, right? You're not supposed to show your feelings in that world.
Well,
You're supposed to be the strong guy that prevails.
It still exists. It's like you said, it's just not pushed by the labels, and it's not on the top 40 like it used to be. I was listening to there's an artist I really like named Almond Brown, who does, I guess, like indie rock, and I was kind of looking at the lyrics to a song called Between the Wars, which is about like moments of respite for a couple that fights all the time, but it's kind of layered in a way that's very haunting, and I really, really enjoyed that. But they're not going to play that on radio stations. It doesn't work in the same way, and that was something that, as much as I like it, it's not nearly as catchy as music was in the 90s.
I also think though too, these big labels are probably transitioning away from like mass appeal and to like, hey, what can we get into movies and TV shows and video games?
But there's a reason why now that Creed is having their revival, because this era makes people feel
decentralization. Something. It's not just that though. It's
I'm saying that's the market speaking.
The younger you get now, the more crazy people's music tastes are. Like it used to be, like if you go up to your average Gen Xer, they'll give you a genre or two of the music they like. If you go up to the Gen Alpha kid, it's going to be all over the place.
No, so what they were saying is like, so if you ask a boomer, a Gen Xer, or a millennial like who their favorite artist is, they will give you an artist name. If you ask like a Gen Alpha or sometimes even a Gen Z, they just like
they put on
Spotify. I put on Spotify this genre.
Yeah.
Like people don't like. I remember like. I don't remember who it was. He was doing like a street interview, and he's like, he just felt like he was just kind of mortified. He's like, you don't have a favorite musical art? Like, how sad.
I don't have a favorite artist. It's definitely
I mean, do you have like a famous artist at one time?
Well, I would say if anyone that I would consider being my favorite artist would not be a recent musician. It'd be someone like Billy Joel. Like what would make someone a favorite artist for me is that I enjoy pretty much all of their music, every song they put out. There's some artists that like there's a couple of their songs that I like, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right? Amazing songs, but I don't listen to anything past that. Then there's artists, no matter what song you put on, it's gonna be good. Like Billy Joel, Sinatra, the Eagles, Aerosmith.
There have been a couple artists in the last few years that ended up making music where almost the entire album I really, really enjoy. Dermot Kennedy, I like his more electronic stuff earlier on, but pretty much every album he makes I enjoy, and it's not the genre I typically listen to.
Yeah, it's like just that. Because I'm Gen Z, so it's like I don't think it's wild for my peers to not have a favorite artist. And it's like when we grew up, we were I had an iPod like with no internet connection in middle school, right? And so I had to find songs, but quickly once I got into the real world, streaming was ubiquitous. Everyone's on Apple Music or Spotify, so the music as we know we've really grown up with has been decentralized. It wasn't like you have to go to the store and buy a CD or listen to MTV and see what songs they're playing. You have the entire, like basically all music.
Well, you're
that's
kind
ever
of paralyzed by
fingertips.
choice now.
Yeah, the illusion of choice.
I don't know. I thought it was interesting, and this is just one of those things where I do tend to be more. It's oddly a bit of nostalgia on my part, but I do wonder sometimes why the culture kind of pushes itself in the direction that it does. And I do think that as much as the culture has changed because of decentralization, I think that the labels have made conscious efforts not to promote this with male artists. I do like Taylor Swift could still be classified as somebody who talks about emotional stuff, but that's, female artists I do believe are different. And at this time, it would have looked different. That same type of thing would have existed at that time for women as well. There would have been female indie stars like Natalie Imbruglia or Lisa Loeb that were making music that would have spoke to women's issues at the time.
Do you find your music taste changing as you get older?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like the stuff that I liked when I was younger, I still like.
Sure.
But I've gone in other directions. One of the things like I love is I do like when YouTube producers take rap songs and mix them with some modern country songs, because I enjoy the way that they really do unique producing.
They tried to, there was a moment there.
There's a guy named Producer Lucas who does really good Rod Wave mix mashups, and Rod Wave is probably my favorite artist working right now, meaning that if I'm talking about like a hip hop artist that puts out music on a regular basis, I don't think that there's a song of his that I wouldn't be able to like listen to the whole way through. Granted, songs are shorter now than they used to be, but I really like Rod Wave.
As I get older, I like the less chaotic the song is, the more I enjoy it. So like when I was in high school, I was listening to like basically all rap and everything. And as I get older, I mean, sure, it's time spent driving in the car, but I'm like, this is too much for me right now. Like I need something a little bit more lower tempo, calmer. So I've like more alternative rock, the stuff like the Goo Goo Dolls that we're listening to.
Listen to the Distillers. Listen to old Distillers. Very, very good. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.